God says, when I choose alignment, I remove confusion first. That is why your mind feels clearer now. That is why doubts that once screamed now whisper, if they appear at all. You are beginning to see this connection not as a fantasy, but as a calling to grow, to build, to understand love in a deeper and more grounded way. Something huge is waiting for you, and it begins with this clarity. This person may not say much yet. They may observe. They may hesitate. But God says, their heart has already moved. What you are sensing is not imagination. It is response. A response to timing finally syncing. A response to readiness finally meeting opportunity. Don't skip. This realization is powerful. You are also changing. God says, I strengthened you so you would not lose yourself in what I am bringing. That is why you are calmer now. Why you can listen without anxiety. Why you can wait without fear. This connection will not pull you away from who you are. It will reinforce it. Stay till the end, because this is the foundation that lasts. Let this sink in deeply. God says, what is meant for you will feel peaceful before it feels exciting. The excitement will come, but first comes assurance. First comes trust. First comes knowing that you are not forcing anything into existence. You are simply allowing what has already been prepared to step forward. Do not rush the next step. Do not overthink the next sign. Remain present. Remain open. Remain steady. God says, you are closer than you realize. And when the moment arrives, you will not need to question it. You will recognize it instantly, because your spirit has already been introduced to it. Stay with this message. Stay with this truth. Something huge is waiting for you, and this part is what makes the rest of the journey unforgettable. Someone took responsibility without announcing it. Someone chose courage instead of comfort. Someone decided to speak truth instead of remaining quiet. God says this decision was not easy, but it was necessary. Do not underestimate the power of what is coming. It may arrive softly. It may come through a simple sentence. It may begin with, I need to tell you something. But inside those words is freedom. Inside those words is relief. Inside those words is a reminder that you were never as alone as you felt. God says your obedience in staying patient has shifted more than you realize. Your willingness to keep loving without answers has opened a path that could not open any other way. And now, the message you are waiting for is close enough that your spirit already senses it. Stay present. Stay open. What comes next builds on everything you have already endured. God says, listen carefully now, because this is the part many people miss. The good news you are about to hear is not just about relief. It is about restoration. It is about something returning to you that you quietly believed was gone forever. Hope did not leave you. Strength did not abandon you. Love did not forget your address. It was only waiting for the right moment to speak. There is someone connected to your life who has been carrying words that feel heavy because they matter. They replayed conversations in their mind. They wondered how you would react. They asked themselves if now was the right time. God says they tried to stay silent, but silence became uncomfortable. The message inside them grew louder than their fear. This good news is not ordinary. It does not simply make you smile for a moment. It changes how you breathe. It softens places in you that stayed tense for too long. It answers questions you never spoke out loud because you did not want to appear weak. God says, I heard those unspoken questions. I prepared answers in advance. If you have felt disconnected lately, like something was missing but you could not explain what, this is why. Your spirit sensed movement before your mind could understand it. Heaven does not announce everything loudly. Some shifts arrive quietly and settle deeply. God says, you were not wrong to wait. You were not foolish to hope. You were not ignored. Every delay protected the shape of what was coming. If this news had reached you earlier, you would not have been ready to receive it fully. Now you are. For parents, hear this gently. Your child's heart has been closer to yours than you realized, even in silence. They noticed your efforts. They felt your concern. They drew strength from your presence, even when words were few. God says there is healing unfolding that does not require force, only attention and love. The message coming to you carries clarity. It connects broken dots. It explains why certain doors stayed closed and why certain paths felt confusing. This is not coincidence. This is coordination. God says, remain still for a little longer. Do not rush away from this moment. What you are about to hear confirms that I was working even when you felt unsure. Let this settle in you. The good news is closer than you think. Do not underestimate this moment. God says what is unfolding now is not ordinary timing, it is precise alignment. The good news you are waiting for has already been spoken in heaven, and the earth is catching up. Someone close to your life has reached a point where silence is no longer possible. They tried to wait. They tried to be careful. They tried to protect you from disappointment. But the weight of what they know has become heavier than their fear. God says this person carries words that unlock a new chapter for you. Not words of confusion. Not words of chaos. Words that bring relief. Words that explain why recent events felt strange, why your heart felt restless without reason, why certain doors closed while others quietly stayed unlocked. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was random. There has been a conversation happening behind the scenes that you were not invited into, not because you were excluded, but because preparation was required. God says, I was arranging details you could not see. I was aligning people you never met. I was softening hearts before they reached you. That is why the news feels delayed. Delay was not denial. It was design. If you felt unusually emotional recently, that was not weakness. It was sensitivity returning. If you felt tired without explanation, it was not failure. It was transition. God says when something good is about to arrive, the soul often feels it before the mind understands it. That is what you are experiencing now. For parents listening quietly, God speaks gently but clearly. Your child has been processing things faster than their words could keep up with. They observed more than you realized. They felt more than they showed. They learned strength too early, but they never stopped needing you. God says your presence is still medicine. Your voice is still safety. Your love is still the place where their heart rests. The good news coming toward you is connected to healing, restoration, and relief. It touches finances, relationships, peace of mind, and emotional weight all at once. God does not send partial answers when full ones are needed. What you are about to hear will make sense of the silence, the waiting, and the tears you never explained to anyone. Someone is rehearsing this moment in their mind right now. They are choosing the right words. They are waiting for the right opening. They are asking themselves how you will react. God says, I am giving them courage. When they speak, it will feel sudden, but it has been forming for a long time. Stay attentive. Stay calm. Do not let distraction steal what clarity is about to deliver. God says this is a once-in-a-lifetime confirmation that you were never forgotten, never overlooked, and never alone in your waiting. What is coming will not just make you smile. It will make you breathe again. Hold this moment with care. What comes next changes how you see the past, the present, and the future. Stay with this moment. Do not let your mind wander, because what God is revealing now explains why everything felt delayed, confusing, and emotionally heavy before this point. God says the good news your person is carrying did not come easily. It was born in pressure. It was shaped in hesitation. It was protected through silence because if it had been released too early, it would not have survived the weight of misunderstanding. There was a season when you questioned your own worth. You wondered if your prayers were strong enough, if your patience was wasted, if your love was unnoticed. God says those questions were not weakness. They were evidence of how deeply you care. And heaven was watching closely, measuring not your speed, but your sincerity. The one who is about to speak to you went through their own inner battle. They wanted to rush toward you with words, but fear tried to stop them. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of changing the balance between you. Fear of opening a door they could not close again. God stepped in and said, "Wait, not yet." Because timing matters when hearts are involved. God says this good news is not small. It rearranges expectations. It answers long, standing doubts. It confirms what you felt but never had proof for. That is why the silence was heavy. That is why your intuition kept whispering, "Something is coming." You were not imagining it. You were sensing preparation. If you are a parent, listen carefully. God says your child sensed this shift before you did. Children feel spiritual changes before adults can explain them. That is why their behavior felt different. That is why their emotions seemed deeper than usual. They were responding to movement in the unseen. God was already working around them. There were moments you felt guilty for not doing more, for not noticing sooner, for not asking the right questions. God says release that weight now. You were never absent in spirit. Your love covered more than you realize. Even when you were tired, even when you were unsure, even when you were silent, heaven counted your care. The good news approaching you carries relief first, then clarity, then peace. It will not arrive as noise. It will arrive as certainty. Something inside you will settle the moment you hear it. Questions that lived in your chest will finally breathe. And you will understand why God protected this moment so carefully. God says, "Do not underestimate what is about to be spoken to you." These words carry healing not just for you, but for those connected to you. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. This is timing perfected through patience. Remain present. Do not rush the ending. The message you are waiting for is closer than it has ever been, and God has not allowed you to reach this point without purpose. Stay with this moment. Do not let your thoughts wander. God says what you are hearing now is the turning point you did not expect, because the good news you have been waiting for was never far away. It was standing quietly, watching you grow stronger while you thought nothing was changing. Heaven has been preparing a conversation that rearranges your understanding of the past and reshapes the future without noise. God says the person connected to your breakthrough has been rehearsing their words in private. They have started sentences and stopped them. They have written messages and erased them, not because they doubted you, but because they feared the power of what they were about to say. Good news carries responsibility. Good news changes direction. And they wanted to be certain the timing would protect you, not overwhelm you. Listen carefully. God says the delay was not rejection. The silence was not distance. It was protection. If the words had come earlier, they would have met you while you were still healing. Now they arrive when your spirit can receive them without breaking. That is why this feels different. That is why your heart feels steady even as your curiosity rises. There is something specific God wants you to understand right now. The good news is not only about joy. It is about restoration. It is about a wrong being quietly corrected. It is about a misunderstanding dissolving without argument. It is about a door opening where you were told there was a wall. God says, "I have been working behind what you could see, arranging outcomes you did not know to ask for." If you are a parent, hear this with clarity and peace. God says your child has been observing your strength. They learned courage by watching you endure. They learned patience by watching you wait. But they also learned silence from you, and now God is inviting a new pattern. Not through confrontation, through connection, not through fear, through presence. The good news coming carries healing not only for you, but for the space around you. Conversations will soften, tension will loosen, sleep will come easier, decisions will feel lighter. God says you are about to notice small changes that confirm big answers. Do not dismiss them. Heaven often announces itself quietly. There is a sentence you will hear, or read, or sense, that will make your heart pause. It will not be dramatic. It will be simple, but it will land deeply. That sentence carries months of prayer inside it, years of endurance inside it, and when it reaches you, you will realize why nothing else could replace this moment. God says, I did not forget your faith when it grew tired. I did not overlook your obedience when it went unseen. I did not ignore your tears when you cried without words. The good news is evidence. It is confirmation. It is God reminding you that trust was never wasted. You may feel a calm urgency right now, not pressure. Alignment. Sense that you are exactly where you need to be to receive what is coming next. That feeling is not imagination. It is awareness. It is your spirit recognizing timing. Do not rush ahead. Do not fill the silence with noise. Let this moment complete its work in you. Because what follows this part is clarity you can carry, peace you can keep, and assurance you will remember when doubts try to return. God says the message you have been waiting for is closer than your next breath. Stay present. Stay open. Stay here. Stay with this moment. Do not rush past it. God says the good news you have been sensing is not distant anymore. It is already forming words. It is already choosing courage. The person connected to your destiny has reached the edge of silence, and they cannot hold it back any longer. What they are about to say carries relief, release, and restoration all at once. You felt it recently. A sudden calm without explanation. A strange peace after long pressure. That was not imagination. God says it was confirmation. Heaven touched the situation quietly so your heart would be ready when the truth arrives. The message coming to you will not shock your spirit. It will settle it. It will feel familiar, as if your soul already knew. God says this good news is layered. On the surface, it sounds simple. But underneath, it corrects months, even years, of misunderstanding. It explains delays. It heals miscommunication. It restores trust where doubt tried to live. The person bringing it struggled because they feared the weight of what it would change. But love is stronger than fear, and truth always finds its moment. If you are a parent, hear this carefully. God says your child's silence is breaking. Not through tears, not through fear, but through clarity. They are finding words for feelings they carried alone. They are learning that they do not have to be strong all the time. Your role in this season is not to fix everything. It is to listen without interruption, to be present without judgment, to love without conditions. God says something important is returning to your home: openness. Conversations that were avoided will now happen gently. Questions that stayed hidden will surface safely. This is not chaos. This is healing in motion. The good news coming is not only about what will happen, it is about what will no longer hurt. You may wonder why it took so long. God says timing protected hearts. If it had arrived earlier, it would have been misunderstood. If it had come later, it would have been missed. Now is the moment when truth can land softly and still be strong. Do not underestimate what a single conversation can do. God says one sentence will lift a burden you learned to live with. One confession will unlock peace you stopped asking for. One honest moment will shift the direction of your future quietly, without noise, without struggle. Stay focused. Stay open. God says the good news is not delayed anymore. It is already on its way to you. Stay right here. Do not let your mind wander, because this is the moment God has been preparing you for. The silence you felt earlier was not emptiness. It was space. Space for truth to enter without resistance. Space for good news to arrive without fear. God says the person connected to your destiny has reached the edge of waiting. They have rehearsed the words. They have felt the urgency. They have felt the pull to finally speak, and heaven has released them now. This is not ordinary good news. This is the kind of news that makes the past suddenly make sense. The kind that explains why certain doors closed without explanation. The kind that softens old disappointments and turns them into proof of protection. God says, what you thought was loss was delay with purpose. What you thought was silence was preparation in motion. Your heart has been stronger than you realize. You carried responsibility quietly. You held together moments that almost broke you. You continued loving when answers were missing. God saw the weight you never described to anyone. And now He says, I am repaying you with clarity. The message coming to you is not loud, but it is undeniable. It will feel familiar, yet surprising. It will confirm something you sensed long ago but pushed aside because it felt too hopeful. God says the person bringing this news has been afraid of your reaction, not because the news is bad, but because it is powerful. They did not want to disrupt your life until heaven gave peace about the timing. If you are a parent, hear this gently. God says your child's heart has been opening in ways you have not noticed yet. Strength is returning. Hope is forming quietly. They are learning how to trust again. Your presence, even in silence, has mattered more than your words. God says the good news you are about to hear also touches them. It lifts something off their spirit. It restores something you thought was fragile. This is the turning point where anxiety loses its authority, where waiting ends without noise, where relief enters without explanation. God says, you are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are exactly where my hand can reach you. Do not rush to analyze. Do not try to predict how it will happen. Let it unfold naturally. The message will arrive in a way that feels simple, yet sacred. A conversation. A call. A moment that feels ordinary on the surface but changes everything underneath. God says this is the reward for endurance. For faith that continued quietly. For love that stayed when it was easier to withdraw. The good news is closer than you think, and when it arrives, your spirit will recognize it before your mind does. Stay open. Stay present. What comes next is not coincidence. It is confirmation.